I'm Timothy Vigil, and this is Just Another Word, the Word of the Day podcast for storytellers. Episode 33, Polymath. A person of wide-ranging knowledge or learning. Yesterday, we established that archetypes are the blueprints for characters. But the danger of a blueprint is that it can become a box. We have a natural tendency to put people or characters into boxes because it makes them easier to understand. And though this can be a helpful starting place, as storytellers, it is our job to resist this simplicity. We want to make a character truly compelling. And to do that, we have to allow them to contain multitudes. Today, we look at the archetype that refuses to be contained. The archetype that should really be a part of all of your archetypes, the polymath. Let's look at the word polymath and look at the scale of a person's ambition. We can break the word polymath into two parts. Poly is a prefix that we see a lot in words, and it just means many. And math, in this case, comes from the word manthenian, or to learn. It literally just means to learn many, or to learn many different things. Another term that we could use for a polymath, and one you might be slightly more familiar with, is the idea of a Renaissance man. But polymath carries a slightly different weight. It's a dense academic word. It sounds like a person who has spent a lifetime gathering the pieces of 1,000 different puzzles. Someone who is inherently human and is ready to apply many different disciplines to the same problems. The greatest example we have in real life of a polymath is probably Leonardo da Vinci. He was one of the greatest artists of all time, an innovator in just that one field. Something that if that's all he did would make him incredibly, enduringly famous. But on top of this, he was an engineer far beyond his time, a scientist and an anatomist. He did all of these things at once, but all of these things played together into his interests. In the modern day, we can strive for a similar level of breadth. People learn a ton of various different things. But for some reason, we fear to put this into our characters, making them more one-dimensional. The idea of a polymath is that we can make every character three-dimensional by giving them myriad interests. Because the polymath archetype creates conflict, not through what they know, not by being the smartest person in the room, but through the friction between their disparate interests. One of my favorite examples of this is the character Adolin Colin from Brandon Sanderson's Stormlight Archive. He is the archetype of a great warrior. He's a master swordsman, and he's a very good tactician, as we see throughout the series. But Sanderson adds a layer of polymathic depth to Adolin by giving him a genuine talent and obsession with high fashion. It's not just that Adolin wants to look good. He has a desire to learn about it. We see him making his own clothing, taking on a depth of knowledge. He applies both of these to his problem solving, and we see that it is this depth that makes him a great character. He is a character who is more than a box. Conflict arises when his warrior side needs to be messy and brutal. The conflict is mostly external, because Adolin is fairly confident in who he is, at least at the beginning of the story. But there is conflict because of who he wants to be, who his father wants him to be, and though they're both great warriors, their conflict arises, at least in part, from Adolin's other interests. By adding 2 or 3 seemingly opposite interests, you can create a character who is constantly at war with their own identity and with the identity that other people want to put on them, both your readers and the other characters in the story. Some ideas that you could think about are a scientist who is also a poet. They may miss a physical threat because they're busy finding the right metaphor to talk about their chemical reaction. Taking someone who is both a scientist and deeply religious and putting them into the same box, taking their absolute faith and their determination to find the truth don't have to be opposing. They can be conflicting within the same person. Letting those two things breathe together can allow us to see something interesting. But it can also just be somebody who has a ton of different interests. Someone who has a love of art and science and of various things. Take yourself, for example. Think of the different things that you love to do. They might seem at odds. I myself, I am a cook. I have spent years and years in kitchens mastering that craft. But I also have a deep love for history. I have a degree in the subject. I also have a passing interest in astronomy and a massive, overwhelmingly stupid amount of knowledge about professional sports. My interests diverge from one another. I also have a love for the craft of writing, for storytelling, and for a lot of very nerdy things. We are all polymaths in today's modern world. Our niche interests collide with one another, and they're not always fitting together perfectly. Make your characters have some of this. A polymath reminds us that expertise doesn't have to be narrow to be deep. When you're building your next character, don't just give them one skill. Don't make them one thing. Give them a hobby that contradicts their profession, or give them a secondary desire that has nothing to do with their primary goal. Use the polymath archetype to prove that your characters are as complicated and as brilliant as the world they inhabit. Don't put your characters in a box. Break the box and let them play with all the toys that were inside. I'm Timothy Vigil, and this has been Just Another Word. Happy writing.